What's up, YouTube? I know you guys have been waiting a little while for this one. How to tape your wrist for shot putting. And I actually have a lot of information on this topic. I've been throwing for a long time. I've had hand injuries, I've had wrist injuries, had elbow injuries. All of them tend to relate back to taping your wrist. Let's jump right into it. So the classic method that the majority of shot putters do, and that I think fits best for both beginners, intermediate, elite, almost everyone uses classic athletic tape. So not much to it, just a roll of athletic tape. There's kind of two things you want to think about. Support, which is actually just holding it here, and tension, which is kind of the support throughout the forearm and that elastic effect that kind of comes with it. So you almost want to feel a stretch reflex, or almost like your hand is a spring. From years and years of throwing, you can see if I go to stretch back, that's as far as I can get it. That's really, really bad mobility for your average person, but for shot put, it's kind of good because that's as far back as I can take my hand with a stretch. I get about to 90 degrees. So really, really tight, but that is good for shot put because anything past 90 is losing energy, because if you're applying force, a perpendicular force is optimal. As I start to tape, I want to think of support and tension. And so as you tape, the farther down you go, the more tension you tend to build. So you'll see Christian Cantwell taped almost to his elbow. A lot of guys tape a little bit farther down. Usually as the farther you're throwing, the more you're gonna tape down, as a rule of thumb. And so if you're starting out, you probably only need 2 or 3 wraps worth of tape in terms of width. And as you throw farther, you can add more. But if you're putting too much tension on it, you won't get that stretch reflex. So if you over tape, your hand doesn't feel springy anymore, and you don't want that. So to start, I usually, for me, I tape right about there. So not quite halfway, between halfway and a third. And I go over once, twice, and then from there, I go about half. So if you look at the wrap before it, I'm going halfway over on the next one, halfway up, halfway up, halfway up, halfway up. And at the end of each wrap, you want to kind of lift your hand a little bit to make sure that you still have that mobility. So halfway up, I can feel it starting to impinge on that lift a little bit. And so right there, it's pretty, you can see that tape starting to absorb a lot of that backward movement. So once I get to that point, I'll do 1, 2, 3 at that top, tear it off. And so if you look there, I can still move it, but there's tension through here, and it's supported at the wrist. So support at the wrist and tension through the forearm to get that spring effect is really the optimal taping job. And you can get that in other ways. Tape is probably the easiest. As you do it a lot, you get very consistent. You'll have days as you're learning that your tape job's not great. You'll have days that you nail it and you're like, oh, my hand feels great, my wrist feels really supported, and that shot is just jumping out of your hand. So that's the goal. I would recommend, as an athlete of any level, to tape your wrist. I think it's beneficial. It protects the wrist, it increases your longevity. I apologize for the birds. I don't think I'm imagining them. They're actually in the walls. I will say, if you're having severe pain, go see a doctor. I am not a doctor, so be conscious of what your body's telling you. That's taping 101. I've got a bunch of other things here. So you'll see some athletes throw in a wrist wrap, which is made for benching. A lot of athletes have success with it. So if I'm throwing with a wrist wrap, it is great for support on the wrist because there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of material there. But you can see it gets a little bit, it's high, so you're not getting that lower support and that tension throughout the forearm. So you don't have quite as much of that elastic effect. While it can be good, and it's a cheap alternative because tape, you have to use a quarter, half a roll of tape every time you throw. The nice thing about wrist wrap is you use it once. And so it's better than nothing, but I would recommend against just using that if you have the possibility to use tape. And I apologize, looking at my hands now, they're super dirty because I was throwing outside and digging holes. to get the shot out. So I apologize for that. Yeah, and it's like 90 degrees and super humid in here. So another wrap style that athletes use, it's like this, the wrap across. This one's a Chic style wrap. The Chic style wrap just goes across, and it's similar to the wrist wrap in that I don't have that elastic effect because this is unsupported. And so great for supporting the wrist, but doesn't build a lot of tension through the forearm. So it's a little bit soft and doesn't have that springy effect. Can be great to use over tape if you're having wrist issues and need that support on the wrist, but on its own, not as good as tape. Lastly, everyone that has seen me throw has probably seen this. So this is just an old school boxing wrap. The cheaper the better, because the cheap ones are 100% cotton. So if you look at them, they have just a little bit of stretch in it, which is great for keeping that tension in the forearm. And so for me, at my level, I tape the wrist and then I go over that with the boxing wrap. I do that for two reasons. A, it saves me a ton of money on tape because tape is really expensive right now. And B, it lets me tighten it as my practice goes. As I'm sweating, as I'm taking throws, tape loosens up. I can take the wrist wrap off between throws if I'm at a meet and I have a long time to wait. If you don't want to go the taping route, I would recommend a boxing wrap, 100% cotton. Honestly, the cheaper the better. You can find them online on Amazon. They're like $6 for a pair, $7 for a pair. So super cheap compared to tape. If you're gonna do only boxing wrap, it's good. Tape plus a boxing wrap is, in my opinion, the best. So this one is really long. Your standard boxing wrap, you'll see, I'll put it on real quick. So thumb loop here, I go across the back and I take it down a little bit, go across, and then I'm gonna undo the thumb loop and tuck it down. You don't want it super high because this bone right here on your wrist is super sensitive and has a ton of nerves on it. So you don't want pretty significant amount of material pressing on that bone. So go over right there, go down, down, down. I've covered up that loop, back down, and I'm not putting a lot of pressure because this wrap is so long. If you do a lot of pressure on each wrap, it's gonna constrict your hand. And so back up, back up, back up, back up. I get to the top. I kind of go around 2, 3, 4 times. And at that point, I'm pretty much set. So I'm just kind of go loose around to use the rest of that material. And as I would start sweating, which I already am, but sweating and throwing, that will loosen up. So those extra wraps are just to get rid of the material. As I get to the end, it's got Velcro and I'm there. So that for me feels optimal. Wrist is super supported, a lot of tension built through the forearm, still have that spring effect, and that feels good to me. But it's a matter of personal preference. You don't want to tape super tight to where you're losing circulation. If you have any numbness, a lot of swelling, take it off. My hand is obviously swollen, but a lot of that is just from throwing for years and years. I've been throwing for 18 years now. So my right hand is always bigger than my left. Yeah, don't overdo it. If you have discoloration, swelling, bruising, numbness, anything like that, take it off. You have wrapped too tight. Find what works well for you. Maybe you like it a little tighter, maybe you want it looser, maybe you like a longer wrap. I know in general, you'll probably tend to go towards a shorter wrap, but find out what works for you. The main thing is don't wrap too tight. If you want more springy of an effect, wrap farther down, but don't wrap too far or too tight that you lose that elastic kind of bouncy feel in the hand. So a part of taping is also your fingers. Check with your federation, whether it's high school, world athletics, wherever you might be, and check the regulations because they vary a little bit. So the old rule up until 4 or 5 years ago was no tape above the wrist, and they've changed it now that you can tape fingers, but they can't be connected by tape and they have to be able to move individually. So the way I tape my fingers, I'll take usually the same tape that I'm wrapping my wrist with. I will split it right in the middle. So you're going half the standard width of athletic tape. Pull off a pretty significant amount, but don't tear it off. And so I'll go around at the base 1 time, 2 times, and from there I will do same thing as the wrist, about a half a wrap over, half a wrap over, half a wrap over, half a wrap over, get to the top, and then just once, and I will go back down 1, 2, and so the main thing I'm looking at is that main knuckle right there. And so I'll end on that with one full wrap around it. Because when you're supporting your finger, you've got bone, a solid bone here, a solid bone here. The weak point is that joint. So you want to protect that joint as much as possible. So I'll start at the bottom, tape around twice, all the way up, and then back down, and one wrap because I'm trying to protect that knuckle. So you can tape all the fingers, but a lot of times if you're having wrist problem or hand problems, you'll see guys tape like this. But unfortunately that is not legal, taping like that, because I've gone around them. They're not free to move individually. The one thing you can tape if you're having some hand pain, a lot of elite guys will tape across the palm to provide some support. So you'll see something like that. And so as long as you don't get too high, that is allowed right there. So provide some support to the palm. You can still throw the shot, but that is legal because they still move individually. And so for me taping, I tape my index, my middle, and my ring finger. Those are the 3 that I tape. I don't usually do the across the palm taping, but a lot of guys do. And I leave the pinky free. My pinky's been broken a few times, and so it kind of is on its own. It's just out there to control the shot. So when I have the shot in my hand, you'll see I'll tape those 3 fingers, and the shot is on those 3. The thumb and the pinky are just there to help support it. So as I have the shot there and I'm letting it go, I'm about right in there. Those are the 3 that are taking the force, are the 3 that I'll tape. I hope you guys learned something. I know there's been a lot of questions about this, so I hope this helps answer some of those questions about how to tape. You guys have been awesome, a fantastic YouTube community, and I'm hoping to continue to grow it. So feel free to share this with your teammates, with your coaches, fellow throwers, whoever it might be. So I know a lot of athletes are right around championship season. So districts, high school state meets, NCAAs are coming up, conference championships on the collegiate level. So if you guys want to send a good luck message, a pump up video, let me know. I can help you out with that on the CAMEO app. Link is in the bio. I can help you send a message to someone. If you just want to wish them good luck in the next competition, I can help you do that, as well as birthdays, gifts, whatever it might be, saying thank you to a coach who's helped you this year. So check that out. I also am offering online coaching on the Expert X app. That's in the bio. You get about 10 to 12 minute full video technical analysis done by myself. And last thing is Caged. They are a sponsor of the channel, so use promo code Ryan at checkout for sports nutrition supplements. I really recommend them. They're what I use personally, and 15% of that sale goes back to the YouTube channel to help out. So you get 15% off, you support the YouTube channel, and you get some awesome supplements. So check out Caged, promo code Ryan at checkout. All those links are in the bio. I appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic day, and wishing you guys some far throws.